Hola, bienvenidos a un nuevo capítulo de Hablemos de Procesos. Hoy tenemos la participación de un invitado especial que nos acompaña desde Arabia Saudita. Vamos a estar platicando con Bassam en unos minutos sobre su libro y sobre su experiencia en todo lo relacionado con BPM. Así que muchas gracias por conectarse y espero que les guste este episodio y vamos entonces a arrancar de lleno con la entrevista. Hello, Bassam. Good to have you here in our show.
Hello, Diego. Thank you for having me in your show. Thanks a lot.
Thank you for joining us. So, we're going to go ahead and start the conversation. We're going to be talking mostly about your book, and then we'll also talk a little bit about ABPMP and your role there, also as president. I understand you've been there for a while now. We'll start talking probably about the book, and then we'll see where the conversation takes us, okay?
Sure, yeah.
Perfect. So let us start talking a little bit, if you could, about your experience in everything related with BPM. How is it that you started on this journey, and what is it that you've learned along the years, and how you've incorporated all of that into this book and into your own professional experience?
Sure. Actually, my background in education, I do have a master's degree in computer engineering. And I was just a person who works in technology. In the year 1999, I joined the Ministry of Higher Education here. I was the IT manager there at that time. And there was just a little bit incidents when working with one of the departments there. The incidents told me, or something that told me that the problem is not, there's another problem that I have to find out. It's not the technology, it's not what we are doing. And I start my journey since then. I start to search, find what we need to do at that time. Then that led me to my search to read books about business process modeling, business process redesign, re-engineering, and so on. And I started to focus in that area, in the year 2000. And since then, I focused there and I shift my career from technology a little bit to business process management. I had to, travel around to go to Australia, UK, US, other places to attend conferences, get connected with this kind of community. And at that time, it was not mature as today. Mm-hmm. Then in 2006, I met a friend. He became a friend since then, Roger Tregear from Australia.
Yes.
And since then, we work together, and he's a key co-author in the book of the establishing of business process management. And he's one of the thought leaders in this area.
Okay.
And we work together with other colleagues from Brazil also as well to develop that book, establishing the Office of Business Process Management.
Okay.
And until now, in 2010, I established my own consulting company. I quit my job and started working in consulting fields, focusing on business process management.
Wow, sounds like a big road there. So tell us a little bit about what was the process like when you were coming up with the idea of this book. If you could tell us a little bit of what was the idea that really started it all. Was it a project? Was it a couple of pieces that you each put together and then you consolidated that into just one book? Or how is it that you all three came up with the idea of creating this particular text?
Actually, that was when I started my own consulting company.
Okay.
The first project we got, it was one of the government authorities here. And business process is still new to government, and not many, just few who are really focused. Usually banking who really focus because of compliance and so on, and other private. But in government, it's something new. And when we started to enter the consulting services, working with government, private sectors, we found out that there is a gap. And it was we had this project. Roger and he was in Riyadh actually, working in this project together. And we had this, I remember this long discussion. What do we need to do? How can we help organization? And we found out that business process is something that is not looked at, and organizations need to have some kind of entity, maybe a group, we thought at that time, or to be part of some unit. Then it came to the idea, there is project management office, there is office of strategy and other kind of offices. Why not to have office of business process management? And we worked together with other colleagues to come up with a reference model for the office of business process management. And since then we introduced this to the market. And now I can see most of, at least here in Saudi Arabia where I work, government, private, they move to this kind of unit to establish. And we are working in many projects like that. Some of them, they change the name, doesn't matter, as long as the job is done, that's okay.
Okay, so now that we've talked a little bit about how we went into the whole process of writing it and putting it together, could you actually tell us a little bit about the content of the book? What can we expect? Okay. If I take the book and it's my first time reading it, what is some of the things that I should be looking out for? And what would be your recommendation on how to approach this book, and what can we expect?
Okay. It's a small book. I don't know if you have the digital copy of it, right?
Yes, that's correct.
So you may share it. It's public. You can share the digital copy with your audience. It's an open copyright. They can, as long as they reference to the book, we don't mind. The main thing in the book is the reference model, actually, which if you need to establish the department, and the book focus on that reference model. Yes, there is the introduction and other things, but the main thing is the reference model. How can you start from establishing the architecture and the strategy of business process management within the organization? Then what are the components, how to run process change projects, and how to support this kind of office across the organization. So the main theme there, or the main thing, is the reference model there. This is where can help organization, if they would like to establish that office or that unit, what they are supposed to have, what kind of processes there they need to focus.
Okay, and would you say that this is a book for beginners in BPM, or do you have to be an expert in business process management to go ahead and read your book and grasp the most out of it? Or it doesn't really matter, as long as you're interested in the topic, you find benefit from going over the chapters and reading the content that you've prepared?
The book is easy to read in general. It's for everyone. But if someone is looking for ideas how to redesign processes and the methodology, it's not there. The main let's say key people to be this book is addressed is executives who would like to take the decision to establish that unit. What do they need to do? What do they have to have in that unit? So that's for them usually. And but it's not a book about how to re-engineer processes, the tool, the methodologies, the analysis, and so on. It's mainly how to establish the department. What do they need to have there?
Yeah, and I really like the fact that you include a section that talks specifically about building capabilities. Because I guess in my experience, I've also seen the importance of replicating and making sure that the business process management office is not a bottleneck for all continuous improvement projects and for all business process management projects, but it actually enables the process owners and it enables the company as a whole to take on this capability and then push it forward. So do you have any particular comments on the challenges that it includes to create this capability?
Yes. There is, I remember Roger will always say, we don't need 5 process experts in the organization. We need 5,000.
Yeah.
So that means we need everyone to have the mindset of process redesign. We need them to look into problems and how to improve them. They don't need to wait for someone to tell them, make that change.
Right.
And the main approach to reach that is by doing more process redesign projects or change projects. And the main challenge is to do that with the key stakeholders, with the staff. I mean, it's not someone who sit in his office and gather data information, then few days later or a week or some with analysis come back with a new process and tell people, okay, this is the new process, the way that you should do. It needs to be done with people. They need to do it together. They need to gather the information together. They need to do the analysis together. They need to redesign it together. I mean staff. I mean those who are in the front of the customers. They are the one who needs to participate in these projects. The more they do that, which is a big challenge, by the way, is they will build capabilities. Over time, people will have the mindset of process improvement. Then that will lead the organization to move with their maturity level to a higher level. You know, maturity levels are 5 levels. So the highest one, the 5th, is where they have the continuous improvement. So you need to do it. You need people to do it, to think. They could come up with ideas to change and improve the organization.
Okay, perfect. Now, there are a lot of books out there right now, as you were saying. I think it used to be a point where we couldn't find a lot of resources. There's still not very many resources in Spanish, to be honest. So have you ever thought about translating this text to other languages? Is it available? I know for a fact it is available at least in more than just one language, but are there any plans to translate this and make this content into other markets as well?
Now it is available in English, Arabic, and Portuguese, because the other co-authors from Brazil, they did translate it to Portuguese. But also we are open. We don't mind if someone would like to take it and take the lead to translate it to, for example, Spanish or other languages. We will be happy to permit that and give the permission for that person to translate it and publish it within the population who speaks that language. For example, Spanish, if someone would like to do it.
Perfect. I hope somebody in the audience will raise their hand and hopefully take this challenge as well.
Just drop us an email and we'll be happy to permit and send the original files so they can edit it.
Perfect. Thank you. So if you would have to, let's say that we read the book, and of course it's like 128 pages long, something like that. It's not that long, but if you can actually take away one thing, what will be your recommendation or your expectations of the one takeaway that the reader should walk out after reading and completing your book? What's the one thing they should remember? And if they forget about everything else, you would be okay as long as they remember this one thing.
Well, there are a lot of things, but one of the really important things to have and let's say process-centric organization is to establish what is called the process architecture. Yes, we do have an organization structure, which is the vertical approach, which is okay, we need it. But we need the horizontal view of the organization. This is very important. Any organization, they need a process architecture where they can view their processes from the perspectives of their customers, not from the departments. What do? HR, they know their job, they are good at it, finance and so on. But at the end, it's a cross function. So the customer at the end, outside, we need to view our organization from this horizontal view, which across the organization. This is very important to be successful in process, if you could say, centric approach, or to have a business process management practices within an organization. This is where we put the layout, the blueprint to build everything there.
Okay. And I know you've written also about innovation. Are there any more books coming up in your career about BPM specifically? Do you have any other projects coming out in the future, or any particular areas you would like to explore any further?
Yes, there is another book that I'm a co-author of, which is called Facilitating Innovation. But there is another book that we are working on, some of my colleagues, and also as well with Roger Tregear, is about a process improvement methodology based on a sprint approach. It is where you take a problem in a process or a process, and you could work with your key stakeholders in a very short period of time, which is usually a week. It's called a sprint. It's 1 week project. And at the end of the project, you should have a plan, solutions to change that process. And it has a lot of visual tools which make it easy for participants to use the methodology very quickly and learn it very quickly. I know there are a lot of methodologies, and it's not different than them, except you don't need to analyze everything. You need just to focus on one problem. In 1 week, you have a very quick solution working with the stakeholders, which is very helpful to make and enable everybody within your organization to do a quick fixes with quick changes, which is now we found out it's needed. We should not take weeks or months to redesign everything. So we need just to have very quick solutions. Still, there are processes, they are very complex. We need to spend time to fix them. But 80% or more of the problems in small processes where we could fix them very quickly and make improvements.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. Gaining the low-hanging fruits or just going for the quick wins. That makes perfect sense. So since we're talking about books and about your book in particular, are there any other books that you highly recommend on your experience in BPM? Have you find any jewels or any particular pieces that you think, man, this is awesome, I wish I read this before? So is there any recommendations that you can provide in other BPM books that you personally like or enjoy or recommend?
One of the really key books that helped me a lot personally is Paul Harmon's book, The Business Process Change. It is one of the key books. Paul Harmon is one of the thought leaders in this area. His book and the methodology that he detailed in his book is very, comprehensive. And it was one of the early books that I read. I learned a lot from Paul Harmon personally. I learned a lot from his methodology, the BB Trends methodologies that he published in his book.
Yeah,
that's one of the great books that I highly recommend. Also, my friend Roger Tregear, also in his career, also he published many books. Some of them are even available that I think in digital. One of his latest books that really very helpful also is about reimagining the business, and it's about the 7 enablers that is needed in any organization to become a business process management organization. So, and there are other books that talks about modeling and yes, we need them, but these 2 books, and I would recommend Paul Harmon book about the methodology, the way that he put it, that helped us, Roger and I, to learn a lot from him.
Yeah, we've already started conversating with Roger, and hopefully he'll be on this show in a couple of weeks from now. So that would be great to connect with what you're just saying and talk a little bit about his book as well. So hopefully we'll get that figured out within the next couple of days, and we'll get that settled for a couple of weeks from now. All right. So before we wrap up this great interview, which I wish I could stay longer and ask questions, but what would be, if you could tell us a little bit also about your role in ABPMP as president for, I think, for 10 years now for the chapter that you lead?
Yes, in Saudi Arabia, yes.
Okay, so could you share a little bit about some of the challenges you faced, some of the activities that you do as a chapter? How have you started getting on this path, and what are some of the things you're facing? Because I do have another series on this channel where we're talking with presidents from chapters in ABPMP, but mostly in Latin America or Spanish-speaking countries. So they've talked about, the activities they've done, how do they get people excited, how do they get people on board, become members of ABPMP, and what are some of the benefits of being in there as well. So can you tell us a little bit about your path with ABPMP as well?
Yes, we started in about 2010. And one of the key things that really helped us to spread about BPM, about the association, is to have a regular, at least once a month gathering.
Yeah.
And one of the challenges is to find the space where you get everybody there, especially if you have a big crowd. And lucky us, we found some places that hosted our events at that time. And since then, we've been doing this a monthly meeting. And that's led us to improve that gathering. And we faced some challenges, especially to get people in one location and to find a big place. And it's even expensive, to rent a place, as you know, but we try to get hosted in other places. Also, then we established to have an annual event, a gathering.
Yeah.
And we did it 3 times. We got a lot of people there. Then unfortunately, in the past few years, we were not able to do it again due to some changes. You need support and sponsors. But last year we got back again. And we did one big event where we got about 300 or more people. They attended. Now with the Corona things, we started to do it online.
Yeah.
And now in our facility that we have right now, we have a nice training room that could host about 50 people. So we start to utilize that one to host a monthly gathering. Before the Corona, we used to do it on a monthly basis. We get guest speakers to do that. The main thing is to do a very regular gathering. You need to get the community together at least once a month. The main challenge is to find a permanent place to get them together, especially if you get a big crowd. And online is a great thing, but personally, I do a lot of online activities training, but it does not replace when you are face-to-face,
right,
talking and discussing in one conference room. So I would recommend just to have in a very regular meeting. That's one of the things and the other challenge is to have really good stories to share with the audience. That's very important. What we noticed, people like to hear stories. They like to hear some of the methodologies. That's great, but they need to learn from others. If you can bring cases, that's a great thing. They love it, and we get a lot of people to attend when we bring business cases, real business cases to be shared with it.
Yeah, well, that sounds great. And I agree with you. I think learning from other stories and learning from other BPM cases, whether they're success cases or failure cases, you still learn from both. So I think that's a great point you make. All right, Bassam. So Before we wrap up, I would like to thank you very much for making the time to meet with us. Thank you for making some space in your agenda so we could have this conversation. I learned a lot from just talking to you a couple of minutes, and I'm definitely excited about sharing the book with the rest of the audience. So I'll be including that in the link as well. Do you have any final words or any final message you would like to include before we close this?
I would, first of all, to thank you for having me in your program. I'm looking forward to watch it again and share it with my friends, colleagues also as well. One of the key things now is we need to think about process innovation. And this is a key subject and a key issues, how we can come up with new tools, techniques to innovate in a process. And that's something maybe to share with your audience another time, something about this subject, which is very important now. Regular or approaches of just analyzing cause and effects, great. But there are a lot of issues now we're facing, especially when the corona came. We need to come up with innovative ideas for our processes and services. And then thank you, Diego. Thank you a lot for having me. I'm looking to watch the video, I believe, in YouTube and your channels and share it with everyone. Thanks a lot.
Perfect, Bassam. Well, thank you very much for joining us. It was a pleasure having you on the show. Muchas gracias a todos. Espero que les haya gustado este contenido y vamos a compartirles el enlace del libro también para que lo puedan descargar. Así que muchas gracias por conectarse y estamos entonces listos para un próximo capítulo. Que estén muy bien. Hasta luego.
Bye.